Thanks, Andy. Hello, everybody. So I'm going to talk to you today about building a second brain. I'll admit now, I'm not the biggest reader. I'm dyslexic. I find it very difficult to process information and understand it, especially in the first sitting. So a book like this is great for me because you can kind of dip in and out, and it's definitely great for anyone who is a busy mind, who is looking to kind of create a little bit of structure and kind of organize ideas and allow your creative brain, your first brain, to actually do the creative work. So Andy, if you want to pop over to the other slide. Great, so this is my summary of the book. So when one brain is not enough, I think a lot of us know this feeling. This book takes a human approach to alleviating busy minds of overwhelm and pressures on memory recall. Forte explores methods of effectively organizing ideas so that your second brain remembers for you, enabling your first brain to focus on the creative work. So how ideal does that sound? Magic, in my opinion. So the book's great, I've got it here. And it's really looking at ways to use the tools that we have at our fingertips right now in terms of digital content collection, collation, organization, to organize our human brains so that we can kind of allow ourselves to do the work that we want to do, because there's so much emotion and so much personality tied up in the ideas that we want to bring to the fore. But sometimes our brains kind of hold us back because they're thinking a little bit more about what's happened before, or worrying about all the possibilities, or trying to retain all that information. So this book kind of gives you the opportunity to kind of dip in and out of different ways of looking at your own methods and finding ways to streamline them through different principles, but also very concrete examples of using certain platforms and kind of note-taking methods, I guess. Next slide, please, Andy. One brain is not enough. So this is thing one. Now, I think most of you will know this image. So Harry Potter, we've got Dumbledore here. It's him extracting his memory from his mind and putting it into the pensieve, where he can know that he can come back to it at any time, to explore what's been going on, to make those connections, to find answers, to predict the future. So all of these things are kind of caught up in this idea of extracting a memory or a thought in the moment and putting it somewhere where it's safe. That way, your first body or your first brain doesn't have to worry about it anymore. You know where it is. You know you can go and get it when you need it. It's a bit like having that dish for your keys at the door. So you put them in there, and you know when you've got to leave, where they're going to be when you have to get them. So this idea about finding somewhere to put all of that information in the moment when you're thinking about it, to secure it away in a place where you know you can find it later, is something that maybe I hadn't thought about too much. I thought, I've got to hold everything in my head, all my creative ideas, all my ambitions, but also all the context, all my past, and how that informs my present and then also my plans for the future. But there is a stress that comes with that, which is this feeling of overwhelm and this feeling of being stuck. And I think as creative people especially feel this, but I think this is something for everyone. That feeling of, I've got so much that I want to do. I've got no idea where to start. I don't know how to talk about it. I don't know how to find the connections between all the information to make it a coherent idea. And that's where we all kind of get a bit, that's where things stop, and often we kind of go around in circles, or things take a lot longer than maybe they could. So these key principles of remembering, connecting, and creating are the kind of pillars to how you should be how you can be recording your ideas and your memories as well. So remembering is going backwards, connecting is looking at what you've got, and then creating is creating something new. So it's kind of remembering that that's the journey, and having a place to start with it. So when accepting that one brain is not enough and thinking about where else you could put that other information, that's the first step. Next thing, please, Andy. Make your memory serve your mind. Now, when I wrote that, my brain did a little like spaghetti thing. So make your memory serve your mind. So the idea of what, following from what I was saying before, the idea is that, so Tiago Forte talks about how your value is in your experience, and that you need to take the time to recognize what those experiences are in order for you to then take the lessons forward, or take the data or information forward in whatever sense you feel is reasonable or logical at the time. So thinking about ways to make your memory serve your mind is about making it work really the most efficiently as possible. So when you are having a thought, for example, Tiago Forte talks about thinking about where you put that thought. How do you put that thought down? Are you picking up your phone and writing it in your notes? Are you capturing it in an image? But then where does it go? Do you leave it on your phone? Do you print it out? Do you upload it to your computer and save it into a file? Like, where do you put it to know where you can find it later? And it's about recognizing in the moment when those prompts are happening, and then actually acting on it. And it becomes a habit. And this book really talks about how you kind of build that habit into something that feels then actually like an extension of yourself, so that you're not just using digital tools to capture for the sake of capturing, but you're actually using the digital tools, or any tool, whether it's even writing down into a notebook or whatever tool you're using it with purpose, because you know that that's where you can go to find that information. And the idea is that you would try and put it all so that it's all going towards one place, but I'll come back to that. But the other thing about your memory is that you don't remember everything. You always remember snippets, the key bits of information. So everything not saved will be lost. It's the Nintendo quit screen. Everyone knows that sinking feeling you get when it's like, have you saved this? Like save now or all will be lost. Everyone knows that feeling, especially, I don't know how many Word documents we've all written up where we've like, oh my God, I didn't save it before autosave was a thing. What was my point with this? Yes, so key bits of information. If you are saving bits of information, you want to make sure you're saving the key bits, the important bits, the bits that need, the things that hold the value. You can collect links and things like that, but you'll have to go through a synthesizing process to unravel what actually that content holds for you to bring forward. So it's about thinking from the offset, actually, what about this thought of information is valuable to me? So if you're looking at a quote in a book, for example, you put the quote and the name of the book. You wouldn't put the whole passage, but you can come back and refer to it. So it's about kind of looking at the value in that, and trying not to hoard that information, which is something that I've been guilty of. I definitely love to have like the full context of everything and like keep everything really rich in information. But actually at the end of the day, I'm only remembering one line. So I think it's about accepting that and letting it go, and like just making your memory serve your mind rather than forcing it to, I guess. And I put the definition for mind and memory up on the slide here as well, just to remind you that there is a difference between the two. So your mind is really looking at your consciousness in the present and making decisions informed by your past and your current and your future plans, whereas your memory is kind of like the bank. with all of your experiences sitting in there. Next thing, please, Andy. So that brings me nicely on to the power of the archive. So as I said in my first slide, having one place to put everything, like the pensive, is like the ideal thing. And imagine if it was as easy as extracting a string of memory with a wand. I feel like that would be the answer to a lot of of my time constraints, for sure. But I think it's really about understanding that an archive functions as a place for you to go to, like a library, right? So you go out, you take the book out on the subject that you're interested in the moment, and you read that information, you synthesize that information. It kind of allows you the freedom to focus in on that one subject, because you're going in at a moment where you're thinking about that particular line of inquiry, and you're not thinking about the other 100 things and searching through the other 100 things. You're going straight to that one subject. And it doesn't mean that everything else is irrelevant, but it might be later, and you can go back and find those other relevant bits of information. But knowing that everything's in one place, especially when it's to do with, you know, because you can use these methods to organize creative work, your ideas, your personal life, your therapy sessions, whatever you want to use it for, you can do that. But it's just about understanding that you're kind of you're building something that's literally outside of yourself, to allow more efficiency in your kind of natural state. So yeah, trust the process in that. And I put this quote here that Tiago quotes in the book as well: emotions organize rather than disrupt rational thinking. And I think that's a really interesting point, which I hadn't thought about before reading this book, is that actually when you're organizing things, you're prioritizing instinctively before you've even put a name on anything. So you have to allow that flow. I'm going to use all these words now, which I'd never use in real life. When you find this flow, you actually find that your rational thinking is more cohesive, and actually leads you through the process of building your outcome a lot easier, a lot smoother, and in a lot more kind of authentic way as well, where you're not kind of wrestling with, the really kind of not the rational, the really black and whites of organizing a messy brain, which there is no right or wrong way to do that anyway. So it has to work for you. That's why the emotions have to lead it. Next slide, please. Organize your thoughts as you would your kitchen. I thought this was brilliant. It made total sense to me. So with any project, anything you're building, you kind of know, you have to have an idea of the shape it's going to take, and have an idea of the outcome that you're kind of working towards. So organizing your thoughts or your second brain like a kitchen, the idea is that the outcome is a meal, a food of a specific food. Maybe say spaghetti. Say we're making spaghetti. What do you need? You need your hob, you need your boiling water, you need your utensils, you need your pasta. All of these things need to be somewhere in the kitchen where you can access them quickly, so that you can make the most efficient spaghetti bowl you ever made. And so that idea of prioritizing and thinking, okay, I want to make a bowl of spaghetti, not thinking about making toast, I'm not thinking about making a ratatouille, I'm not thinking about making pizza, I'm thinking about making a spag bowl. So what do I need for that? And so it's about finding those specific tools. And then when you move on to the next type, when you do want to make the pizza, it's thinking about, okay, well, what do I need for that? And then adding those extra elements in. And then you build that up so that your brain, or the brain that you're building, reflects the activity that you're doing, rather than just holding historical context, if that makes sense, that doesn't really have anywhere to go. And really, like, what would that look like if it was easy? That's the approach you should take, is what is the most ideal way for this to be? Because then you've got nothing in your path. You're not worried about, for example, you're building this kitchen. You don't have to worry about size restrictions. You don't have to worry about the counters not being the right height. You don't have to worry about any of that stuff. You just have to worry about where things are going. And so you can build it exactly in the way that is most convenient for you. And final thing, give your first brain a new job. So this, I actually had a different point for this initially, but I changed it to give your first brain a new job, because once you've done all that work to collate and categorize and build out your second brain, you then are left with an empty first brain, I guess, technically, right? Because you're putting all your memories into an archive, and you are building out that second brain, taking things out of the archive as and when needed, like the kitchen utensils. But then what's happening over here? It's all rattly in here, everything's out. What are you going to do? So the idea is that then you think about how you have to give how you want to use your first brain. How would you like to? What would be the easiest way for you to reach your creative goals? Now that you've alleviated the stress, that feeling of overwhelm, that feeling of being stuck, that feeling of really needing to kind of extract every single one of those memories out of your mind. So giving your brain a new job and being really conscious about it completely, again, just takes that stress away. It allows you to kind of get on with what you're doing, and to do it without the stress of not remembering and relying on that memory recall, which is something I struggle with a lot as a dyslexic. So it's something that this book has really helped me to find methods to work around that particular road bump. I think that's it. I think that's my rambles.
5 things.